Okay, kettlebell swing correction video. Your primary fault is that you're a little too squatty with your kettlebell swing. Now, whenever I point out faults in movements, I often want to make sure someone realizes just because this is a fault from what I'm wanting to see with the kettlebell swing doesn't make what you're doing bad. Doing a squat swing just means you're squatting too much and you're not producing as much power through the hips. That doesn't make it a bad movement. That doesn't make it bad for you or bad for your knees. It's perfectly fine to do. Oftentimes when I'm analyzing movement, the first thing I'm looking for is, are they doing something injurious? Are they doing something that is going to lead to harm? And often the answer is no. The second thing is, could I improve it to be more like what I want to see? So just because it's not what I want to see doesn't mean you're doing something bad or harmful. Okay, now saying that, your swing is a little too squatty. Now what do I mean? I'm going to demonstrate what a squatty swing looks like. I'm going to do 10 reps. Actually just 5. I want to speed this up. Okay, now I'm going to demonstrate what I want the swing to look like. Optimally, the bottom of the swing will look most similarly to a deadlift, which means it's primarily a hip hinge, not as much as an up and down squat movement, which obviously the squat requires the knees to travel forward a little more. So that butt should be pushing back. Now, if we hip hinge with a kettlebell swing, this is what makes it different than a deadlift. A deadlift does not go through your legs. A deadlift, the bar goes straight down. And I think that's why a lot of people do a squatty swing, is because the kettlebell will go a little more down. If you hinge your hips, you have to force that kettlebell through your legs. And I'm going to get into that technique and how to ingrain that after I perform what I want it to look like. First of all, start in your hip width or slightly wider stance. That's whatever you feel comfortable with. And start with the kettlebell in front of you. Don't start here, pick it up, and start humping the kettlebell. Start with it in front of you. This makes, as soon as the kettlebell comes off the ground, your rep has begun. This is called the heaving portion or the hike back portion of the kettlebell swing. So you're going to get in your stance, just like a deadlift. You're going to load those hamstrings. You're going to tilt the handle on its end, and as soon as this kettlebell leaves the ground, my rep has begun. I'm going to aim for my crotch without hitting my testicles. It's going to go through my legs, then I'm just going to stand tall. And then I'm going to send it back through the legs. Wow, I produced so much power, my hat flew off. That's a good kettlebell swing. Okay, now, some basics of kettlebell swinging technique I could get into a lot, but I'm going to go over some foundational structural movement components, the order of the movement throughout the phase, and what often happens during a squat swing. So I'm basically just going to cover two things. I'm going to go over the movement pattern that I want it to look like, and then I'm going to go through one patterning technique that can help to make the kettlebell swing more of a hip hinge and less of a squat. So first of all, the very basics of kettlebell swing movement pattern. We're going to start at the top. The top should look like the top portion of a push-up plank, except you're standing tall, so everything's tight. So right here, the kettlebell is straight out, it's not down, it's straight out, sometimes even up. So I'm here, I'm nice and tight. So now the kettlebell is going down. My arms are going down. Here's the key point. I'm not gonna hinge my hips until my triceps touch my rib cage. You gotta pretend you have stinky armpits, and you're not going to hinge your butt back until your armpits are closed. So it looks like this. Boom, now I hinge. The kettlebell goes through the legs. From here, I stand tall. I come out, I bring my hips forward, I extend the hips and the knees at the same time, boom. Now look where the kettlebell is. It's not up yet. So if I see this, and I pause the video, I would ask the question, how did the kettlebell get there? My hips aren't extended. The answer is the arms. But this is not an arm power generating movement. The power comes from the hips. Your arms are just along for the ride. Your shoulders act as hinges, okay? So it should be producing power, boom! Now the kettlebell comes up. Top of a push-up plank, I'm nice and tight. Kettlebells goes down, triceps touch the rib cage. I'm then hip hinging through, back up, stand tall. Hip and knee extension, same time, boom! Kettlebell floats up. Now what I see often with squatting swingers is as the kettlebell comes down, they immediately start getting squatty, or just knee hinge and hip hinge at the same time right here. And then it looks like this. And especially if I see that kettlebell up here, I'm always asking, how did it get there? Where is the power coming from? Okay, so first it should be through the legs. If you think of your crotch to your knees like a triangle, the kettlebell needs to go through there. Or you can think, I want to touch the middle of my forearm to roughly the middle or upper middle of my thigh. Boom, right there. Hike pass, like there's someone behind you, okay? So instead of this, I should see kettlebells coming down, boom, hip hinge, through the legs, stand tall, simultaneous hip and knee extension, power production, kettlebell then comes up. Now watch me swing the kettlebell, and I want you to look for that timing. Did you catch it? I hope so. All right, now, a patterning drill, if you really have trouble getting that butt back, there's a bunch of patterning drills, and I'll post a link in the comments or the description box of 3 of my favorite hip hinging patterning drills. Here's one that's not in that video, and it's called a chair touch or a bench touch. I like to do it on its own or combine it with kettlebell swings. What you do is you're just gonna stand in front of a bench, okay, or a chair. Go through the patterning drill like I just showed you. Start in that top of the push-up position, hands come down, triceps touch the rib cage, hinge, touch the bench, okay? This is the golden patterning movement. Why is this so great? Because if I'm too squatty, I can't touch the bench. And really, you should stay in the squatty movement. If this is you, stay here. And if I was a coach next to you, I would say this, but just say to yourself, find the bench. Find the bench. Find it. Wow, there it is. How amazing. Now the question is, how did I find it? I found it by hinging my hips, by pushing my butt back, by filling my hamstrings with tension. I'm now back here in that good rear hiked back position, or really this is your deadlift position. And again, from here, I'm now gonna stand tall, have simultaneous hip and knee extension, boom, kettlebell comes up. Find the bench, boom. Hinge. So you can do this patterning drill 5, 10 times, then come do your kettlebell swing for 10 reps, then go back. If you're ever discouraged that your technique hasn't improved like that, Come on, get over it. It's not going to necessarily change just like that. Changing technique requires hundreds, sometimes thousands and thousands of reps to get better and better. Or it could really get better in one session. Just don't get discouraged if it doesn't get better immediately on that first rep. You got to just keep going. Sometimes when you try to implement, when you watch a video like this and try to implement everything you heard and learned, your technique's going to get worse for the first few sets or so because you're thinking too much. But then things start clicking. Then, I mean, you're not going to be in a flow state just like that, but you're going to start thinking less and less, and you're just going to start doing the technique how you're wanting it to be done. And yeah, so what did we cover? This is primarily for those who are a little too squatty. The movement pattern of wait until your triceps touch your rib cage, then hinge, the hike pass, send your hands through this triangle, roughly mid forearm to mid thigh, sometimes higher. Then as you come up, stand tall without trying to have sex with your kettlebell, okay? Even though it looks like it, we are not shoving our hips forward. We are standing tall. That's what produces the motion of the kettlebell in this circular pattern, okay? It's not a physical push. Same with cleans with the barbell. We're not physically pushing that barbell, okay? Just extend the hips and the knees. That's where your power comes from, and the kettlebell should float up. And you, of course, have to encourage that kettlebell back through the legs. Okay, that's it for this video. Hopefully that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions.